After all.
You are listening to Radical Sacred, a podcast centered around spirituality, nature, and connection.
I'm Phil Dickey, pastor, eco-spiritualist, activist, friend of trees, and a small-town Missourian living in the heart of Dallas.
And I'm Jenny Mislin, spiritual director, teacher, seeker, bird watcher, and a homesick Texan living in France.
Join us now as we live the questions, learn from open-hearted conversations, and explore our own deep and sacred roots. Morning Poem by Mary Oliver. Every morning, the world is created. Under the orange sticks of the sun, the heaped ashes of the night turn into leaves again and fasten themselves to the high branches. And the ponds appear like black cloth on which are painted islands of summer lilies. If it is your nature to be happy, you will swim away along the soft trails, for hours, your imagination alight everywhere. And if your spirit carries within it the thorn that is heavier than lead, if it's all you can do to keep on trudging, there is still somewhere deep within you a beast shouting that the earth is exactly what it wanted. Each pond with its blazing lilies is a prayer heard and answered lavishly every morning, whether or not you have ever dared to be happy, whether or not you have ever dared to pray. Amen.
Oliver. Friends, we're so excited this week because we have Kate Thomas with us. We first encountered Kate at Wild Goose Festival. I have been in and around progressive Christian spaces for a really long time. And something that was really gorgeous about Wild Goose is that at the closing ceremony, closing thing, it was led by all women, a diverse panel of women. And I have never experienced that before. It made me tear up while we were there, and it was just such a beautiful thing. And Kate was on that panel. And so we loved listening to her and hearing from her, and we wanted to have her on today to talk about her work. Kate is a strategic designer with 10 years of agency, UX design, and strategy experience. She loves advocating for user wants and needs, breaking down complex technical ideas for clients, and working collaboratively. Curiosity and positivity are Kate's guides, leading her to adapt in the digital space. Kate's favorite places to play are in Figma, at her craft table, and on nature walks. Thank you for being with us today, Kate. And if you have anything you want to add to your bio, please do so.
Sure, yeah. Before I did UX design, I did 10 years of graphic design for nonprofits. So I've always been very mission driven. That really, like, doing work for a good cause makes a huge difference for me. And then about 4 years ago now, I started an art coaching business where I help people kind of live out their creative expression, self-expression, and just dive into experimenting with art supplies. And sometimes that's one-on-one, sometimes that's in group classes. And as I've grown and changed, the topics have grown and changed. And so I've just really enjoyed creating community in Annapolis, especially, and being engaged, with all kinds of topics through the arts.
What does playing on Figma look like? Because Figma's the AI-driven,
it has
right?
AI integrations.
Okay.
It's a prototyping tool.
Okay.
It has something called Fig Jam, which just sounds fun, right? And it's a way to kind of put a bunch of ideas on paper, but it's digital, right? So it's actually where I think, which might sound crazy, but as a designer, it's like, this is a tool that I use to design things, but it's also the place where I make big document flows. And so I geek out a little bit with what are my values, as I use this in my own personal life, right? What are my values? How do those things cross over? How am I investing in those bigger picture things that I've been handed from the previous generation and I will hand to the next generation, like our environment, right? And I think sometimes those are the most meaningful things we get involved in. but it's so hard on a daily basis to be like, yeah, today I contributed to environmental change. It's a bunch of tiny little things. And so Figma actually allows me to kind of keep track of like big ideas, little ideas, organize them, move them around, and just play a little bit with I call it my mind palace. It's like I can drive in the car and just let, a million ideas flow and kind of draw connections from different places. And that's one of the things I just enjoy about my brain. So I use Figma for that sometimes.
So I love this because, I'm sorry, Jenny, I'm jumping down like a totally weird rabbit hole here, but I think sometimes for creative people, it's hard to capture it all.
Yeah.
And so I just love this idea of a platform that's really helping you to pull the threads and pieces together. Like if you had to delineate between like a Canva versus a Figma, what led you to Figma versus something like a Canva or maybe some other platform?
Canva allows you to like create graphics and posters and all kinds of things like that, which Figma is multiple design tools within itself. So Figma
like
has.
Is it like more Adobe style? Like is it like I guess this is again this is such a weird question, but I'm curious like but people are like trying to wrap their minds around like what's the competitive or what's the similar tool or platform that would be similar. Because again, I've played with so many of these and end up just like getting worn out on them or not being drawn to them because they don't fulfill the need that I was looking for. So I'm very curious right now. Like this episode brought to you by Figma. I don't know. We'll have to get a corporate sponsorship here.
It's more like Miro. Have you used Miro? It's that's like a brainstorming app. It's got just basic boxes and text boxes and things like that, but you can get a bunch of people in it at once to collaborate at the same time. So it's really lovely actually if you're doing, working sessions that are remote, especially with inclusivity, it really, really helps because it's easy to have a speaker stand at the front or, in the highlighted box on Zoom, right? And talk and talk and talk. It doesn't allow, so even it's like you could put surveys in there, you can ask questions, you can have people contribute ideas, there's a lot of work that goes into user experience design that is about letting everyone have a voice and then figuring out how to bring those ideas together to move forward. And so tools like Miro and Figma allow you to do that, where you can kind of get a bunch of people in there together. But there's other aspects of Figma, like the one that's more nitty-gritty design, that would be a little bit more probably like Canva or something in Adobe. Like it's a combination of Adobe products, but it's for prototyping and web design. So developers can get in there and look at the code and all that stuff too. It's kind of the industry standard. It used to be Adobe XD, did similar things, but it's kind of an Axure is another prototyping tool, but Figma is really kind of the industry standard at this point.
Thanks for entertaining that.
Sure. You can start a free account. Yeah, I would encourage, go to FigJam and just play around. There's little stickers in there. And if you get multiple people on it, you have to, I think, have paid to get multiple people on it. But if you have 2 people on there, you can jiggle your mouse and they can high five. It'll like make a little hand and they high five. So it's like those little tiny joys in life are just what keep me going and light me up.
Oh, I love that. We might have to work at that for the things that we do for podcast stuff. That's fun. Will you talk to us about art and creativity and how those played a role in your childhood? And like when you discovered that those would be really important through lines throughout your life?
Love that question. I think so much about my younger self. In fact, I was literally flipping through an old photo album from when I was little to see if there were pictures of me like playing in the dirt, because I remember making mud pies a lot. I loved bubbles. I loved making tiny things. Like I would make tiny little clay things and sell them to my mom. She was my first supporter. And I was just very curious. So I grew up in Alaska and spent we moved there when I was 4 and then back to Maryland when I was 13. And so we had literally rainforest in our backyard. I didn't realize until recently that it's rainforest up there because it rains so much. And there's like moss everywhere and vernal pools. And so I would just discover. I remember art being something that I did, but like I don't have very direct memories. I think it was just like integrated into the way that I kind of moved through the world. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I think I was like, oh, I'm not particularly good at the main subjects. Like all the things that I love are, you know, this ceramics class or this photography class that I can take on the side. And so when I went off to college, I was like, I'll do art or music. And I didn't get accepted into the band, so I did art. And then just everything kind of, my world kind of opened up from there. But I think I was just very playful. In all the pictures I found, I was holding like a stuffed animal. Like, I think I have a very tender heart. And so holding on to soft things helps me feel kind of comforted. I still have a stuffed animal. In fact, multiple stuffed animals. And I still imagine, you know, moss kind of covering and surrounding me in my life as I kind of hold space for my tender heart while still being present in the world with other people. But I'm always taking time to kind of sit and play and listen to my childhood self, what was fun for her, so that I can continue to make that kind of art. I think there's a depth that comes from honoring who you were when you were young and what just naturally excites you. So I still make tiny clay food. Like I have like tiny little string beans and like little cup. When somebody in my life does something amazing that should be celebrated, maybe the world wouldn't necessarily celebrate it, but it's like they've written a book or they've, you know, changed their perspective on something. I'll give them a tiny little ice cream sandwich. So I say that I'm 8 years old. I'm pretty much like a child in an adult's body.
That's so fun. Go ahead. Yeah. That's so fun.
We were both excited by that. I love that, and I love how you talk about being a kid and encountering art and creativity, because I think sometimes people think to be creative you have to like create art, like you have to be an oil painter, you have to do all these things, and it's really just a way of being. Like it's a way of being artistic, being creative is a way of being. It's playing with the moss and making little things. I will still make a flower crown right now if I found flowers like outside. I've been doing that for like 40 plus years. You know, that's one of my favorite things to do. It's, are you viewing the world through this lens that includes creativity and play and all the best things, I think, you know?
I love that you said playful like that. It's just such a beautiful word.
Yeah, it's the best. And so will you talk to us about your curiosity and how it guides you and how you've learned to listen to it over the years?
Yeah, sure. I just want to add one little thing to what you said before I go there. I've learned that the process of creating is sacred. And so people say, oh, what kinds of things do you make when I say I'm an artist? And I'm like, I don't know. There's not always a lot of output, or that thing turns into one thing that then gets ripped up and changed into something else. I try to use organic materials a lot. Sometimes it's just what color do I feel today? And that's what I put on the page. And I just see what kind of comes out of that. So it took me a while to get there after being a designer and being like, this is something I make money at. I have to have a client. And I think actually a lot of designers end up, or people that do creative things for work, end up forgetting why they got into it, and the joy and just the play and fun are like my two things. Like everything has to be fun and playful, or I'm like, I have a hard time motivating myself to do it. But yeah, I just wanted to underscore what you shared there, Jenny, that I think it's so important to spend time just exploring. In my art classes, I call them on-ramps. I try to make sure that anybody from any different background, whether they're totally judging themselves about creating or have never made anything themselves, all the way to somebody who creates regularly, feels invited into the space. feels like there's a place for them. And I purposely give them like giant paintbrushes and like tools that they can't, or like you're gonna paint with toothbrushes and combs, you know, like so that they can't control it, because we have to sometimes get out of our minds in order to get into the wisdom of our bodies. And I think art is a really lovely way to help us explore and express that. It's totally a connection with God too. I mean, all that spirituality for me is like, it's at the very center.
I feel attacked. Have to get out of your mind into your body.
Yeah.
So guilty of that. I love you talked about stuffed animals, and that just makes me really happy because I also I'm finding more and more that having something in my hand, tactile, is really important to me. Sometimes it's just rocks. Like sometimes I have a rock in my car that I'll sometimes just like sit and rub while I'm driving, you know, like just little things make a difference for me, having something tactile. But you also mentioned imagination, and I wonder if you'll invite us into your imagination, right? Like how do soft things help you to get in your imagination, or how does curiosity invite you into a deeper imaginative space?
I love that. You want to come hang out in my imagination.
Totally.
It's a crazy and wild place. Yeah, I think it goes back a little bit to what Jenny was asking, like what was my path to creativity? And so I describe it often like this, that I think we each have the opportunity to walk down this path of life, right? Like if you want to kind of imagine a forest, maybe it's a place close to you that you get to walk at recently. Maybe it's in a city, you know, just a path that sort of resonates with you. And if you kind of imagine yourself on that path, and there's these twists and turns and unexpected things that, you know, come out of that, we kind of just have to go with it, right? And it feels like there's this pressure to walk quickly. And I'm like a couple months ago, I was like, why am I walking quickly down this path? Like, what's the end? Death? Like, I mean, depending on your beliefs, there's more after that. But like, am I rushing towards the end of what, you know? And so I've tried to make today my someday, and that I slow down and sort of just appreciate what's around me. Like when you go walk in the forest, I'm just going to use that as my example because that's what really resonates with me. There are tiny little weird mushrooms. There's like moss growing on things. And when you start to learn about the environment and what nature's actually doing, it just kind of makes your brain explode. You know, the way that the reciprocity that's embedded in the way that nature kind of works together, like trees, especially in the way that they, you know, share nutrients and all that kind of stuff. So some of it's just finding fascination in everyday things, like imagining if I was an alien and I'd never seen anything on this earth, like what would I walk into this space and see right now? Like the fact that a tree stands, you know, 50 feet in the air upright, that's bizarre. Like that's totally wild. So a lot of my curiosity is just like being present, trying to be present with the people and the things that are around me, and caring for those things, you know, in different ways. But if we go back to that path that we're traveling and we're journeying, I find that it really helps to slow down our pace, to sort of notice what's there. And then oftentimes what happens is off in the distance, we kind of see this little twinkling of lights. We can't quite tell what it is. It's like nondescript. And we have this opportunity to take a path, like a separate path, like there's kind of an offshoot. You don't have to take it. It's like a choice, right? And you could keep going, but if you do take that path, sometimes that path becomes just something that's like fun and different, interesting. It's a short path, but sometimes that path is like a field of lightning bugs that are lighting up the sky and reflective of all the stars, and we remember that we're, you know, one with God in the way that we're reflected, you know, on earth as it is in heaven, right? And those paths, those little curiosities, those sort of lightning bugs that have kind of drawn us off to the side, are the things that we're meant to do in life, because our path looks different than anybody else who's ever walked this earth. And it feels awkward and weird to step off the path. But I really believe that like God wants you to embrace and honor that unique thing that draws your interest. And I think then those things lead to the next thing that leads to the next thing. Like, to me, it's like the God calling of saying, you know, here's an opportunity if you're interested. Like, I think you might enjoy this little side path. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but that's what I think about when I think about curiosity.
Oh, I love that. I love everything you just said. We have been talking a lot about Howard Thurman and the sound of the genuine, like following your sound of the genuine and having that be your cornerstone or your guiding light or your fireflies or whatever you want to call it.
Also, if you've ever gone to the Howard Thurman Center in Boston, there's a moss wall. So you've referenced moss a couple different times. So he has like a little literal moss wall in his meditation space. It's amazing. Anyway.
Okay,
write
it's
that
on my
down. Go
bucket
visit.
list. I'm writing it down. Thank you.
That's cool. But I wonder if you have been all buttoned up and kind of not listening to the sound of the genuine and not, you know, being on the path that other people have set before you, which we've all found ourselves on. What are some ways, Kate, that you invite yourself into listening to the sound of your own genuine? Like, what helps you tap back into self, your truest self?
Yeah. There's this middle space, this in-between space where we kind of know something's not quite right, but we don't know what the future is yet. And it's so awkward. It's weird. But I think it's actually the most lovely space because it's where we surrender to the fact that, like, God has a bigger vision for our lives, right? I don't like hanging out there, but I've been here for about 4 years now. So that's my jam, is like hanging out in the weird space, figuring out who I am. And I'm still trying to figure that out. And I think if we're willing to be in process, it's such a beautiful thing. So I did design work for about graphic design for 10 years and then UX design for another 6 or 7. And for about
real fast, I'm sorry, UX, will you just, in case people don't know what UX stands for? No, just in case.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, user experience design. So designing like websites and applications. Like anytime you get stuck not knowing what button to click, that's a user experience designer's like fault. And so I had a daughter. You know, I still felt very strongly that I wanted to work and contribute financially to my house, and like it just is meaningful work to me. I love what I do, but the balance of like somebody owns me for 40 hours just didn't feel right. Like my daughter was in daycare for like 11 hours a day, and I'd see her for about an hour a night, and I was like, this is not right. And it was probably 7 years of like just that feeling in my belly. Like I think everybody feels it in a different place. For me, it's in like my gut, that it's like, this isn't right. And so Krista Tippett talks about holding the questions, and I think she got that from somebody else. I don't know if you know the reference. Yeah, do you guys know the reference? About holding the questions?
I don't know if it's living the questions is random.
Living the questions
is Rilke.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So like living the questions and sort of being like, God, why does this not feel right? You know, what am I supposed to do about it? And then there was about a year in there where I was like, I think I'm supposed to go part-time. I think maybe that's the thing that I'm supposed to do. Will give me time to kind of uncover what's going on in my artistic realm. Because I stopped making art actually when my daughter was born. I was like, I don't have time. Like, I don't know how to have time for this. And I became a really sad person. I was really depressed when I wasn't making. It was during that time that I realized I have to make. It's like part of me, like breathing. And so now that I've experienced kind of that other end, I feel like it helps you appreciate, like, okay, you know, let's make this invitational. And so I started doing art at home that wasn't related to my job at all, but it was more, taking giant pieces of paper. There's a really beautiful artist named Sabrina Ward Harrison who makes these really playful illustrations. And she starts with a giant piece of paper and she just makes messes all over the paper. Oftentimes what I'll do is like cut out a little piece of that and make it into a card and send it to somebody. But for a while I was just making these big these big messes on paper, and it got me into this whole realm of like discovering, creating just kind of on your own, for the experience of creating, right? And so that was becoming a bigger thing as I was like, I think I need to be part-time. I think I need to figure out what this is, and uncover that a little bit, spend some more time with my girl. And I finally went to my company and was like, this is a non-negotiable. I need to be part-time or I'm going to have to go. And so they offered me a contract role. So I was working like 20 hours a week, and it got harder and harder. I did that for about a year. But I sort of was like outside the family, and I was like, it just got harder and harder for me to like show up as my full self and be kind of accepted there. They were looking for me to be this professional, like growth oriented, like I want to, that was my main focus. And I kind of had more things that I was carrying. And so I had the privilege of being able to sort of step away from that job and spend some time in reflection. And man, when you're willing to sit in silence with God for hours, some crazy magical things start to happen. So I think that's the first thing I would encourage is like, God just is seeking us out all the time. And it's us not listening that stops us from hearing things, right? I felt really, really convicted that I needed to spend a lot of time in silence. And as I went through that journey, it was silence. It was just leaning into the things that drew my curiosity, like walking outside became a really important thing. Being in nature, learning about nature. I think just being open to the fact that both there's a story that you don't know that might show up in a unique way, and also that that we have a community around us. We all have people that we know throughout our lives. And so, I was like, I think I might want to do a coaching thing. And I was like, oh, I have like 3 friends who are coaches and I could just call them up and ask them. So it was me leaning on the community a lot when I was trying to figure out like who I was and what I was doing, and friends offering me support, training, guidance, coffee chats, all of that stuff. So sometimes it's asking for help when it's more of a like career change kind of thing. And then I think just really learning how to be present with God so that like that discernment piece can kind of be figured out. And then more from in a creative realm in terms of like how you lean into like different mediums and things like that, or might try different things. I think just starting with a piece of paper and some watercolor is a really great way to experiment, like let the materials guide you a little bit. You can wet the paper and then put paint on it afterwards, which means that the paint kind of like scatters in all these different directions. I love dipping my paintbrush in watercolor paint and like splatter painting. So like layering different things, you can tear out paper and glue that on. Old books are great basis for art. So you can like, just do like acrylic, paint it over top. I usually take like a credit card and like scrape the paint so that you can kind of see some of the words and some of the paint over top. That makes like a great base for any kind of art collage. Or you could journal underneath, like if you're going through something and you need to kind of get those thoughts out. That's another way that you can approach art. But I find that having a quietness and like a contemplative space with God, or leaning into how I'm feeling at the moment, like I need to move my body, so I take a walk around the block, like it's okay for you to have a goal and then gently bring yourself into that newer space. So yeah, listening to your body has become like a really important part of my work, because I think there's a lot of wisdom in the way that we are created. And I think more than just, our analytical brains, we've got beautiful hearts that feel all kinds of things. And we've got guts that tell us when something's wrong. So there's a lot of wisdom, I think, just inside of who each of us are.
I'm just going to let us sit with that for a second here, because that is just really beautiful and so invitational. You mentioned Krista Tippett. I'm going to channel a little Krista Tippett here and just take you back to that childhood self of you had that you mentioned earlier as well. Would you let us know just a little bit about what your faith upbringing was like as well, and how that's played a role throughout the midst of this?
Sure. Both of my parents are pastors. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Which can sometimes have a negative effect, but
totally.
They're lovely, loving, supportive, generous, kind souls. I've been blessed with a really lovely family, and we got to have adventures together. Like, I have 1,000 weird stories about growing up in Alaska. It's like a small town, but a very weird place too. Like over 100-mile-an-hour winds, and all kinds of things going wrong, and us just figuring out how to manage it. So my core family group was pretty tight. Whenever we'd move, my parents would come talk to us about it and be like, okay, what do you guys think? It was a collaborative relationship. It wasn't just, I'm going to tell you what to do. And so I grew up hanging out in the church. We built 2 different churches when we were in Alaska. So I would go to the work site, the church work site after school, and help build things. And I'd have to hang out a lot, after church, keeping myself busy. So, it became maybe an invitation to find something creative to do, or inspiring or fun to do, when there was I was just waiting, right? So I remember we used to meet in elementary school gyms a lot, before we had church buildings. And one of my favorite things to do was bring bouncy balls into a gym. For hours, you just get to run around and play with bouncy balls. So that's pretty brilliant. I want to do that now, So
just chuck it as hard as you can and see how many times it bounces off the wall. And it's brilliant.
Yeah, just run around. Yeah. So I think there was just so much that was embedded in me throughout that time, in terms of, how to love people, both in the words you say, and then also what you do. It just serving in our community was kind of part of the rhythm of our family. And it wasn't till high school that I had that my faith grew a little bit more. I had some close friends who were really strong in their faith, and I actually ended up in a more conservative place at that point, and had to unlearn some things after that. But it was all a journey. It was all important. And I think it's just grown since then it's just been an evolution, since then, in terms of surrounding myself with people who are values aligned, whether that means that they say they have the same faith that I do or not. I think treating each person as an amazing creation, and sort of seeing that each person brings their own wisdom, and there's something for each of us to learn from each person we meet. I love trying to figure out what somebody's magic thing is about them. But my favorite question to ask people is what lights you up? What inspires you? What do you do in your free time when if you could do whatever you wanted to? And so I think those ideas from my childhood have just expanded more and more as I've grown, and just listened more. Now I spend a lot. I do some contemplative work with my current church, and so I'm leaning more and more into that. I think in terms of this is a partnership with God. This is, that life is just so much more rich when you are working together in tandem with God.
That's gorgeous. You said something that I think is really important. You talked about being bored. As a kid,
Yeah.
like having infinite amounts of time after church and having to come up with things to do. I think, before COVID happened, I was never bored, right? Like I had little kids, I was working full time, like I was doing all the things. Um, and then everything stopped immediately, and we were home, and I hated that feeling at first. It's so uncomfortable. It's like I need to fill my time with something, but without having time, without occasionally being bored, without frequently being bored sometimes, there's not a rhythm of life. Or if it is, it's real fast. But there's not room to come up with a new, fun, weird idea. There's not room to see where your imagination takes you. Our schedules are so freaking crammed, a lot of us. And I just made my kids take their games off their phone because I was like, you don't get to sit around on your phone all the dang time. Like, you can use it to text people and you can use it to call people. And like, other than that, get off your freaking phone. And they really loved that. They thought that was great. But I just talk to us about the importance of being bored and like how that leads to cool stuff and yeah, just talk to us about that.
For sure. Yeah. Love. Thanks for pulling that out. That, I find that very much to be pretty universal. I think that when we spend time without direction, that it's when the most interesting stuff can come up. Sometimes it helps to have some like crutches in case you need it. Like, here's the medium that I might play with. I'm going to have some fabric and some thread in case I just feel like stitching some things. And I really love, so let me go back to your original. I was going to go on a crazy direction, but let me come back to your question. Sometimes it's having a book or a book of poetry or something so that when you have that like space that you feel like there's something you can kind of reach for. But I think it's a spiritual discipline, honestly, like figuring out how to be like, oh, my body's telling me I need to get up and get a snack, but nope, I don't, like every minute and a half for 4 hours. It's like sometimes it feels awkward and it's okay that it feels awkward. I guess as you're easing your way in to that kind of practice, I think sometimes it helps to be like, it's okay for me to just read the book that I want to do, the thing that I want to do for fun that I don't like let myself do for whatever reason. Like if you were your older self and you looked back at yourself right now and you were like, listen, lady, you got to work as hard as you can and you're never allowed to stop and take a break. Like, no, that's not what your older self tells you. She's like, live it up, soak it in, journal or whatever it is. And then as you get used to sort of being in that silence more and more, I think being willing to sort of have less things that are directed and focusing our attention and being more like, let me just like look at this crazy leaf. I did this the other day. I was in the forest and this one leaf had these little bumps on it. And I was like, wow, what is that? And I love touching things in the forest. I'm like, always like the bark, or the, like all the different leaves are different, like softness levels. It's like shopping for, like shirts or sweaters, like in the store, like I have to touch everything. So I was looking at this leaf and I pulled it down and on the leaf, I saw this green bug. It was a spider. And it was totally green. It was like its whole body was green. Its legs were green. Like it looked just like the leaf. But right on the top of its head, it was gold. Like it had a little crown. And I was like, God, like your creation is just wild, So I think sometimes just observing what's around us or like going to the craft store and like picking up one like item that you've wanted to play with and then maybe find a class and like have a little bit of help and guidance. Like it's like ask for help too. And if I could share one project that's kind of come up in that same kind of way, I I was feeling really down and depressed, about a year and a half ago, when I feel like I live in the DC area. And so a lot of government programs were being shut down. There was a lot of job loss, and it was just a really, really hard time. It's still challenging around here, but I feel like we're all trying to figure out what is right now. And I was just kind of sitting in it, like letting it be, like using kind of the welcoming prayer. Let me just sit with this feeling and journal about it a little bit. And I was like, it's just so much. It's so heavy. And I thought of this idea, which I think is totally a God idea, but I was like, how could I bring hope to people? Maybe I could make a skirt and fill it with tons of pockets and have people make art, put that art in the pockets, and then wear it to Wild Goose and hand, if people want a little hope, they can get a random piece of art from somebody else. So it's a little weird to like come up with your own projects and tell the world that I'm making a hope, pockets of hope. But it's been such a lovely experience to like invite friends and, my class participants. And then I'll do this even at Wild Goose, where we'll have a little workshop where people can create pockets and art to put in it. Because I think us remembering, like, it's a way of us kind of coming back to the fact that like we each, yes, are one tiny, tiny piece of a giant, giant world. And also we are one big, beautiful piece and valuable piece of that world, right? So I get to choose if I'm bringing hope today or if I'm going to complain about everything. And I find that if there's something that we can talk about in terms of how we work together and walk into the future and have these hard conversations, that it can lead to something, can grow something that's really beautiful. And I think that's what will grow the next stage of our world into something amazing. Sometimes you need that destruction in order to, have a rebirth. And if none of us are paying attention or like thinking about that, and we're all just sad and depressed in our homes, like the rebirth isn't going to happen. It's up to us. And so, yeah, the pockets of hope feels like a way of kind of embodying that like strange idea that just came from being quiet and listening. And now it's like a project. I'm like, I got to work on my project, so it gives me something artistic to do as well. And then invite people in the community, like be a part of it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's so good. Like, just because the next question I was leaning toward was, there's a lot of just really rough things in the world right now, like, and just chaos. And that, when I look at scripture too, there seems like creation comes out of chaos, right? And so, I don't know, is there more to expound on that idea of how can you take chaos that feels, so destabilizing and disruptive all around us, and how can the act of creating things bring about, like, kind of what you're saying, new life? And maybe, I don't know what it brings about, right? Stability is not always the word, right? Because sometimes that, even the ordering of chaos is still pretty chaotic, but there's maybe beauty in it, and maybe there's deep love in it. And what does that idea of bringing order to chaos stir in you?
I love that. Well, like one of my friends says, you can't talk to me without me talking about the compost pile. So I see this destruction as a compost pile. It's like all the food scraps. It's all the yucky things that, somebody else is throwing out as trash. And I think it's really, really hard to look around and see the destruction happening around us. Like, that we don't all agree in democracy right now. We don't all agree that everybody should have the right to vote. It's really, really sad. And so sometimes we get focused on that, when what happens under the ground, if you now envision like what's under that compost pile, right? All these crazy microbes start to show up, and all these little insects, and they start breaking it down. They take what's there and they start breaking it down. And it's kind of crazy and wonderful and wild, I think, to imagine what's going on under the soil, in order to help us give hope to what's next. So then the compost pile gets hot. So my best friend and I actually always say to each other, like, where are you in the compost pile? And saying, how are you doing today? It's like, where are you in the compost pile? And she's like, it's hot in here, you know? So it heats up. Like sometimes we're in that space, like when it's not totally decomposed yet, right? And then after that, we're left with these like nutrients, all kinds of stuff in the soil. And it's like, well, what comes out of that? I think that's where I am. I'm seeing all the nutrients right now today. That's where I am in the compost pile. And I'm wondering,
such a great question. Where are you in the compost pile?
Feel free to use it. Yeah.
Yes.
You might have to explain it first.
I'm literally standing on a pile of shit. That's where I feel like right now in the compost pile. Yes.
There you go. There you go. But it allows you to articulate that like you're not just good or fine, right? And I think that's really important. And then it's like, how are these different nutrients being rearranged to grow, to make a seed, right? Or to, maybe it's the creator that plants the seed, you know, and then it's waiting. That seed waits and waits and waits, sometimes years, sometimes hundreds of years, sometimes even 1,000 years to start growing. So sometimes we're like a little baby idea, a little seed, you know, coming, and then we turn into a plant that grows. And I mean, the whole thing starts over again, right? And so I know that's not an artistic metaphor, but I feel like it's just a helpful processing metaphor. And then I think artistically, it's a little bit hard for me to say how other people, what might be helpful to other people without like teaching a class, right? But for me, it's this constant curiosity. And so I have like all these different mediums that I've done over my lifetime. Like, I love to go into nature, see things and like start sketching and then print those sketches out on this printer that cuts paper. And so I have these like really beautiful illustrations of like made up natural objects that then I make into, you know, 3D kind of things, right? So sometimes I'm doing that. Sometimes I'm like really drawn to fiber arts right now. So like just doing embroidery, but I'll do it in a way that's less directive and more expressive. So I'm like, I think there's like some dashed lines over here and over there, you know, and I'm kind of pairing the colors together and like playing back and forth with the way that and noticing how the fabric feels, noticing how the colors go together, and just kind of being playful with that medium. Or you know, I might be doing something that's a little bit more like paint and paper based, where I'm creating more of a collage or something like that. And so because I've spent so much time just uncovering those curiosities, now I have this big toolbox, and I've started to mash those things together. So I love painting on fabric and then freehand sewing over top of it. So it's like, it can become like, art can become a way for you to understand what's going on in your life, you know, for you to like try and make something that represents the way you feel in this moment. Or it can be something that's like a big concept that you want to have a conversation with your community about, you know? And it's just, I think it's such a huge invitation to make something artistic, both to do your own self-discovery and then use it as conversation to bring people together. And I always enjoy kind of inviting people into that process as well.
That's so cool, Kate. That's so cool. I feel like we could just talk to you for forever because this is fun.
Same here.
So fun. Okay, we know you've got your Pockets of Hope skirt coming up at Wild Goose. So y'all, if you're going to be at Wild Goose, find Kate. What else do you have coming up that you would like for folks to know about? Projects, classes, just anything that you've got percolating right now?
I am doing some of my own self-discovery right now, actually, taking some time to invest in that. I still teach classes in Annapolis. I'll continue to do that. Once a month we get together and at a place called Art Farm, which is fabulous, and pick a different medium and a different prompt and just get wild and make something. So that's always a good time. I will eventually be offering some things online, but nothing in the works right now. I'm actually spending time, I'm going to Peru this summer and learning from the Incan folks who live there and have been figuring out, like working on keeping sustainable ecosystems and biodiversity going and water conservation. So it's like an experiential learning trip. And out of that, I will be doing like a capstone project that's like figuring out where I'm going in the environment. And so I have a gut feeling that that might be around helping people manage eco grief, and figuring out how to tap into where they're meant to get involved in the environmental space. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm This Creative Kate, and I'll be posting things there. But yeah, I just encourage everybody to go out today and make something.
Well, yeah, again, if you're going to Wild Goose, be sure and come find Kate. And just what a gift it is to be in conversation with you. And thank you for expanding our imaginations as well and inviting us to walk down that path in the forest. For a minute, I was like, I feel like we should just stop and have Kate take us on this like imaginative journey along the way. So maybe next time we'll come back and you can just lead us an imaginative journey. But
awesome.
Yeah, this was so wonderful, and we do hope that folks will join us at Wild Goose and come find Kate. And yeah, just thanks for bringing beauty in the world and playing in that chaos and making something really beautiful out of it. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate y'all too.
Thank you for being a part of the Radical Sacred community.
In these uncertain times, may you cling to hope and deep connection, and may you work towards living in a spirit of reciprocity with all beings.
Our lovely intro and outro music is Beach Song by the band Saren.
And it's just the two of us here at Radical Sacred, so please help us out by sharing with your friends, rating and reviewing us. Find more of our work on Substack and Instagram.
Remember, you are on sacred ground. Stay rooted.